I call to order the November 6th meeting of the Committee of the Whole of Planning and Public Works for the Redmond City Council. In attendance, we have Councilmember Anderson, Councilmember Fields, Council President Forsyth, Councilmember Carson, and online we have Councilmember Kahn, and myself, Council Vice President Kritzer. I am chairing this meeting in lieu of Councilmember Stewart, who is unable to attend today's meeting. On our item, we have, on our agenda, we have 8 items. The first item is a status update on the Transportation Master Plan, and starting us off on this is our Deputy Planning Director, Sarah Fee Allen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Since June was the last update on the progress of the Transportation Master Plan, the goal of today is to frame the study session that will happen on November 14th. I want to just give you a heads up that we have a lot that will be coming, and so we're going to be providing a lot of materials, but the primary goal of the study session is for you to feel comfortable with the local road safety plan, which needs to be completed by the end of the year. So Vanjie Garcia and Francesca are accompanied by Brett Schock, our project manager from Transpo Group, who is leading the local road safety plan as well as the Safer Streets for All action plan.
Good afternoon, Council. An overview of the local road safety plan is included in attachment B of your council packet, and draft project sheets are included in attachment C. As mentioned in our prior presentations, the local road safety plan sets baseline recommendations that will shape the upcoming citywide safety plan, the Safer Streets for All action plan. Previously, we explained that the data trends with crashes led to certain countermeasures to help prevent those crashes from happening. Those countermeasures informed the draft project sheets. Staff from multiple divisions in Planning and Public Works have reviewed the project sheets and provided input thus far. At the study session next week, we will review the local road safety plan process and conclude with your feedback on this list of these projects and a sense of priority level.
All right.
Hand it over to Brett.
Yeah, so my name is Brett Schock. I'm with Transpo Group. Francesca gave a great intro of kind of how we arrived at this, but I brought some handouts with some maps to kind of explain some of our projects. So yeah, for the local road safety plan, we've used statistical and spatial data on the past 5 years of crash history to identify 6 risk factors to predict future crashes, many of which you'll see are tied to incidents involving pedestrians and cyclists, also known as active modes. So if you look at the maps in your packet with the binder clip, so maps 16 and 17, you'll see all of the active mode crashes in the last 5 years organized by the type of crosswalk that they occurred in. And the reason that I wanted to highlight this is that it leads to our first project, which is to implement high visibility crosswalks in a larger swath of the city. This type of crosswalk, which is also known as a piano key or a continental, is a lot more visible both to drivers as well as to be able to see the pedestrians in it, as opposed to the dual line crosswalk. It's now part of the city's standards, but we're just recommending that program of replacing those dual line crosswalks be implemented quicker and in a wider radius. You'll see on the maps that a lot of those crashes in the dual line crosswalks are happening outside of the city center, where a lot of them have been changed over. We're also recommending that this be focused on roads with higher speed limits, as well as divided roadways where there happens to be a lot more concentration of crashes happening. The next project we're recommending is modifications to signalized crosswalks. So maps 18, 19, and 20. You'll see that there are a number of crashes happening where vehicles are turning. In the legend, you'll see the different colors indicate, left turns or right turns. Pedestrians, there seems to be a higher risk for left turning traffic, whereas for cyclists, it's right turning traffic. So we are recommending a program of changes to signal operations, which can especially be tied to time of day. Map 20, you'll see there's a lot more crashes with active modes happening in the PM peak hours, so between 4 and 7. So we could implement changes, turn restrictions, leading pedestrian intervals, things like that, that could be tied to just that PM peak, so they're not affecting traffic at other times of day, you're not inviting other violations, but really helps to get right at the core of the problem and those future predicted crashes. And any modification we make to a signalized intersection is an opportunity to upgrade curb ramps and push buttons as part of the improvements. The third potential project is a high-friction surface treatment. So this is basically looking at roads where a lot of wet road crashes have happened, which you'll see on map 9. On map 9, you'll see a lot of triangles indicating crashes involving those active modes that happened in wet conditions. The high-friction surface treatment places a little bit more exposed aggregate, especially at intersections. So, in those wet conditions, it makes it a little easier to stop. It can also be focused on significant horizontal curves in the roadway. So we have a whole program of locations where this might be a good candidate. It's something that would probably be spread over multiple years so that the city can also evaluate performance and impacts on maintenance and things like that throughout the process. The next project is looking at bike lane protection. So kind of flipping back to map 19, which had kind of the colored circles for which direction a vehicle was traveling when there was a crash with a cyclist. You'll notice that there's a number of crashes that happen with vehicles going straight ahead. The city does have a lot of striped bike lanes, but there's no physical protection with that bike lane. But there are a lot of products on the market, everything from just a regular single flex post to some off-the-shelf curbing products that have a flex post built into it that can be used to protect those bike lanes a little bit better, give a little bit more physical protection, but not block driveways, affect drainage, or other operational things like that on the roadway. We could also, there are potential to flip the location of bike lanes and parking in some locations so that the bike lanes are actually at the curb line and protected by the on-street parking lanes, especially if they're very well used. So we're recommending a number of routes, especially those that overlap transit or that have a lot of horizontal curves. We're recommending that these bike lane enhancements would be a good preventative measure for future bike crashes. On map 3, you'll see the location of severe ped and bike crashes, and you'll notice a few on Avondale Way as well as Redmond Way. Current guidance for implementing bike lanes would not recommend striped bike lanes on roads matching the characteristics of these two roadways just because of the high speeds and the high volumes. So, this would be certainly a larger scale project, but we are recommending relocating the curbs and actually bringing the bike lanes up to the sidewalk level in these areas. Bringing the curbs in would also likely have a traffic calming effect, to help mitigate those speeds that are out there today, in addition to providing a much higher comfort facility, that maybe would induce some more bike ridership amongst those who don't feel comfortable currently in the striped bike lanes on those roadways. Maps, there's two of them numbered 13, I apologize for that, but both 13s and 14 show crashes that have happened at signalized intersections. So it's very prevalent in the data for crashes involving angles between two vehicles as well as rear end and those active mode crashes. Combining a lot of the projects that I previously mentioned, we recommend in the 148th corridor as well as Avondale that a number of signalization changes could be implemented at all the signalized intersections, as well as things like narrowing the lane widths or curb extensions to minimize the crossing widths for pedestrians. Lead pedestrian interval, as well as being able to kind of interlock these signals together for better traffic progression that might help to reduce some of that frustration that can honestly lead to some of these crashes.
And Brett, okay, sorry. I know we all love maps, so I just thought I would interject that there's a lot in front of you. And we did know that, I apologize, that the local road safety plan, I knew that you were all excited to get this piece of work. So you're going to have a lot of topics today. So we're here to collect questions for our study session. And I'm apologizing to Councilmember Khan because she didn't get the maps. I don't think you have this map uploaded today. So what we wanted to do is take advantage of having Brett here today because he won't be able to be here for the study session. So primarily, we wanted Brett here today to explain a lot of the logic that led to the projects in the local road safety plan for you all and any of the questions that he can answer while he's here. So I wanted to just interject for some time, and if we could open up any questions that you might have at this moment.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the presentation and these great maps. It's so exciting.
You're welcome.
And the great work, obviously. Are there questions from the council? Council President Forsyth.
Hi. So yeah, we all love maps, so we could sit here and look at these maps for the rest of the meeting if you let us. So just a couple of things that I'd be interested in hearing more about at the study session is the high friction, what that looks like, and I saw the pictures in the documentation. Just want to know a little more about that and what the challenges would be for bikes, because I saw that it was a kind of caution on what it would do for bikes. Looking at the automated enforcement, want to know some more about what that looks like from the plan. And I loved seeing the all-way crossings in the plan. I know I've talked a lot about that, and so I was really excited to see that as part of it. The pedestrian scramble, as you call it, just makes me really excited, especially for the downtown area where I know drivers get frustrated when they can't turn, even though it's their turn to turn. And then thinking about Overlake and how that growth and development would be impacted, and the all-way crossing could be very beneficial there. I did want to flag, I was just recently told about the exiting the high school and how it can take about 20 to 25 minutes to exit the high school. And I had questions from community members if there was going to be a light there, if there were any changes coming to that. I figured that would fall into this Safer Streets for All planning as well. And then lastly, I wanted to call out, I had sent an email to Director Helland and Director Burt about Move Redmond has about a block's worth of armadillos that would be able to be used for a pilot program for some protected bike lanes. So just wanted to give that a shout out in this setting. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilmember Anderson.
I really appreciate the presentation. I love that there's photos and also cost estimates in this document too, so that's really helpful for consideration. Similar to Ms. Forsyth, I've heard a little bit of complaints about speeds on speed management, specifically on 104th and also 116th. I have also observed that myself, so it's not just the high school area, but just coming down that hill. So I'd be curious if we're looking at any sort of activity in that area. I see 3 dots on that road, which is surprising to me. So would love to hear a little bit more about what that plan is. And I really appreciated the grade separation on the bike lanes. That's a great idea. I love it. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson, can you repeat? I just was making my notes. I got 116th, and what was the other one?
104th.
104th.
Yep, in the school zone areas.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Fields.
Yeah, remind me how this set of data was, how you got to this data. We hired somebody and they looked through all the reports and...
So all of the background data from this is WashDOT's data from the last 5 years. So anytime a police report is filed, it goes into a system called Sector. And we can make a public records request from WashDOT, and we'll get all of that data with all of the contributing factors as well as the XY coordinates to be able to plot these.
So the end date for this data is?
12/31/2022.
Okay.
So it's through the end of December of last year.
And yeah, I mean, you, and then you have taken that data and extrapolated some ideas, it looks like.
Yes.
Of potential mitigation. Love to use the word solutions, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure we ever really solved that. So, and I think this is amazing. I think this is remarkable work. I really do. And I like the idea that we are taking data and actually using that data to form a trajectory or a potential set of things that we can actually do, and what it's going to cost, and then we collectively as a city can make decisions about when and how much. And I know that I've always sort of steered away from this, but I'm wondering if there's any opportunity in finding commonality about driver or bicycle or pedestrian behavior in that can be sort of extracted out of not just the infrastructure solutions, but the enforcement solutions and recommendations on how people behave. Do you feel like there's enough data to say distracted driving, for example, is a common problem across all of these areas, or even drunk driving, or driving under the influence, or anything?
Yes, that data is in there. Some of it is a bit subjective with the distraction or the inattention because it's based on the police report and it's how the individual officer fills it out. So the stage that we're at with this local road safety plan, the program is very focused on engineering. The SS4A program that we will get into in the next phase is more focused on the holistic, including behavioral and enforcement. So.
Oh, okay, and that was my next question, and I appreciate that. I do think that that's the right thing, is finding that infrastructure, or what were the words you used? You used better words than that, but
Yeah, the engineering side. Yeah.
engineering. Thank you. And then how we then integrate that with law enforcement and some of the other training ideas that have come up. So I appreciate this. This is great work. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson?
One other comment that I've had come up is a concern for turnarounds for police and fire. So I would be curious if there has been a consultation with our police and fire department about any problem areas that we've seen around the city, so that we can have this comprehensive approach to engineering the city from a safety perspective. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Carson?
Thank you. So I had one, I have questions about the automated enforcement kind of proposal, and just, first of all, it looks like one of the locations is not the same location as mentioned in the thing. It looks like it's at Idlewood versus near Marymore, which is what the narrative indicates. But what are we exactly thinking about? So we've done automated enforcement before, red light cameras. It didn't go over particularly well. It didn't change behavior. We also did them in school zones, which seemed to be more palatable, but as the narrative kind of indicates, those are school zones, and I'm not sure that. So I'm not sure that folks are going to be really excited about this. And the thing that the council learned back when we did red light cameras was it takes a large penalty for people to change their behavior, and the penalty wasn't large enough, or maybe they'll never change their behavior. So we saw that basically the numbers of people running red lights be exactly the same after the pilot program. So I guess the question is, what is the goal? Is it to keep people from going at speeds that they're going to do anyway, or what are we trying to do? Are we trying to change behavior? Because I don't know that that's necessarily going to work.
Yeah. So the objective of that one is to change the culture around speeding. The locations were picked based on the RCW. It has to be adjacent to a park or a school right now for a speed camera to be used outside of a school zone time. So that's where those locations came from. And it's mostly based around the fact that, the risk factors do lean heavily towards, walkers and cyclists and those vulnerable users. And just anything that generally brings down the speed across the whole system will benefit those users that are, currently one of the higher risk factors for crashes.
So I guess the follow-up is, if it didn't change behavior before, what makes you think that this will change behavior? Because we just didn't see it. We didn't see the behavior change. So
Brett, I'm just going to jump in because I know we're running short on time, so we can add this to our matrix,
Yes,
and we'll
that's great.
provide a response for you.
great.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And I guess I would add to that overall, if there's, I think my request would be on this or a couple others, if there's any significant sources you used to come up with some of the best practices, if, you know, there are studies or other types of things and something like the automated enforcement or other types of, some of these that show up in here, if you could highlight for us some of those studies or areas that you pulled from to be able to develop this set of recommendations, that would be helpful. So that way we can ground ourselves both in the data of what we're seeing in our community as well as the data of best practices that we know other communities have used to bring down these rates of crashes and fatalities.
Yeah.
One quick question I had before we wrap up is when we're looking at the at crash data, is this always including a vehicle, or is it? I was wondering when you were talking about the different conditions, would crash also count, for example, if a bike crash just by slipping on the pavement or something like that?
Only if it was police reported.
Okay.
Yes, it would show up if there was a police report to accompany it, but yeah, if someone just falls and then moves on, it's not going to be in there.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, quick one from Councilmember Carson.
So just another item on the matrix is, what is the pedestrian's responsibility? I mean, we put in mid-block crossing crosswalks, and yet people jaywalk 30 feet away. And I'm just like, really? I mean, I almost want to roll down my window and say, hey, use the crosswalk. That's why we put it there. But what responsibility does a pedestrian have and what education can we kind of move forward? Because I see it all the time. It's surprising. It's really shocking to see people just decide, no, look both ways and cross. But there are lots of turning out traffic, and anyway, it's shocking.
Well, I know our time is tight. I just want to focus on, in the study session, we'll be going over the projects that were in our local road safety plan. And remember, the locations in here are focused on where the data was or show, and these are industry standards. So we will come up with, what we hear today is come up with a few good, it'll be Francesca and I will bring up maybe some good locations of where the reasons why they were suggested. But what we'll be looking to you guys is what you, maybe some prioritization next week.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next item, unless there's any other comments. Great. The next item is Development Impact Fees 2024 Annual Indexing, and introducing this item is Deputy Director Allen.
And to save time, I'm going to start before they sit down. Each year, council has the authority to index impact fees for inflation. Glenn Coyle is here today to brief council members on proposed impact fee changes in 2024 to account for inflation. Staff is asking council members to place this item on the November 21 consent agenda item. Glenn, take it away.
Good afternoon, council members. So impact fees are one-time charges collected by the city from new commercial and residential developments to fund fire, park, school, and transportation facilities needed to accommodate growth. Impact fees are authorized in Redmond Municipal Code 310. Indexing or updating Redmond's impact fees annually allows the rates to keep pace with inflation, to maintain the purchasing power of these impact fees, and to help provide the capital facilities necessary to serve growth in Redmond. RMC 310 establishes the indices and procedures that the City Council may apply annually to index or update Redmond's impact fees. In addition, the city collects school impact fees on behalf of the Lake Washington School District by interlocal agreement. School impact fees calculated by Lake Washington School District reflect a proportionate share of the costs of school-related system improvements that are reasonably related to new development. And that is all I have, and I wanted to note that Brian Buck is also online from the school district if there's any questions in that regard.
Are there any questions from the council? Seeing none. Oh, did you have a question? Councilmember Carson.
Well, I think with these, it's really helpful to see what they currently are, and obviously, the memo doesn't include that. I'm looking to see,
In the attachments, there should be a schedule of the updated
is there?
rates.
Yeah, but not what they are currently. So I see that the percentages are there, but, so like with school impact fees, I have no idea of what it was. I mean,
I could read them off to you if you would like. Yeah, the school impact fees actually went down pretty significantly. So last year, or this year, depending on how you want to phrase it, single family was $18,610, and they are going down to $5,149. And for a multi-family per unit, it is going from currently $35.86 to $352.
Glenn, I also just want to point, if you go to your packet, the front page has what the numbers are that he just read as well. So it's not the attachment, but it's in your council packet memo.
Got it.
Great, thank you so much. One quick question from myself before we wrap up this item is, you mentioned about the daycare change. My understanding was we were discussing potentially moving to reducing daycare impact fees even further. Can you just speak to, in a little more detail to the change that's being considered there and any potential changes we might look at in the future?
Sure. So what is before you today is indexing of existing fees. As part of the overall package of Redmond 2050, we will bring you code amendments that would create exemptions or waivers for daycares.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to have a reminder on that one. And with that, I'm not seeing any other questions. Is everyone good with putting this on the November 21st consent agenda? One question from Councilmember Carson.
Yeah, thank you. So on the school fees, so what accounts for that kind of change? And I know we have our school district representative here, but I mean, I'm just curious because that's such a huge change. It's basically a third of what it was last year.
Brian, do you want to speak to that? That is exactly why we asked him to join.
Very good.
Sure, I'm on if you can hear me. So the primary changes relate to updated enrollment projections. We have a third-party demographer that we have new updated enrollment projections, and there's a slight decline in our enrollment through 2028. The requirement for impact fees requires at each level that you have growth. And with these slight decline in enrollment, the elementary need and middle school need were removed from the formula due to declining enrollment. There is still a need to address high school. So high school construction projects are within that 6-year window are included. In addition to that, we updated our student generation rates. Prior plans were paused during the pandemic, but we are using 2023 student generation rates, which also declined from previous impact fees from prior plans.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. So seeing no objections, we'll put that on the November 21st consent agenda. Close out this item. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Moving on, the next item on our agenda is the Economic Development Strategic Plan Data Analysis Finding and Strategic Themes. Introducing this is Deputy Director Allen. Go ahead.
Thank you. The title of this agenda item, we are requesting a study session for November 28th, 2023, is the Economic Development Strategic Plan, Data Analysis Finding, and Strategic Themes. Council approved a consultant agreement with Community Attributes, Inc. on July 18th, and we have been very busy since then, so I will let Philly fill you in with more information, and Philly is our Economic Development Manager.
Thank you and good afternoon. So we're really excited to bring our consultant, Madalena Colin from Community Attributes to the study session on November 28th. This will be the first touch point with council, and so it will include an introduction of the Economic Development Strategic Plan timeline and process. We'll share key data findings from both the landscape analysis as well as the quantitative data research. We'll spend some time with the draft strategic themes that have been identified through that landscape analysis and landscape findings and data analysis. And then we'll also share our current and future stakeholder engagement that will inform the continued plan development. At this study session, we request discussion and feedback from council on the strategic themes identified, as well as if there's any topics of interest that you want to make sure we analyze and evaluate for strategy and action development. The draft strategic themes identified include equitable small business and entrepreneurship support, business retention and expansion, business attraction, cluster diversification and expansion, workforce, as well as district development and placemaking. As we prepare for the study session, are there any questions or requests for information that we can be sure to respond to through the study session presentation?
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Council President Forsyth.
Yes, I would love to see if we're including in the strategic plan displacement grants or anything like that to help businesses that have had to move due to growth and development.
We'll be sure to bring some information.
Any other questions in preparation for the study session? Councilmember Fields.
Will we be talking about who is Redmond and who they want to be when they grow up, and any kind of visioning themes?
Yes, through this plan development, it will have a narrative that will include kind of vision, mission, and be a communication tool for a variety of audiences.
So the second part to that question is, are we planning on getting feedback from our community engagement to say, you know, what's missing in Redmond, or what the gaps are, or who do they want to be when we grow up?
Yes, so there's a few engagement processes that we'll bring details on at the study session, but there's currently a live survey that's out. We're conducting interviews, and we will be conducting focus groups throughout the process.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to the next item.
Thank you. If anyone mulls on anything, feel free to send us an email because it's not till the end of the month.
Great. Thank you so much. The next item is the adoption of the ordinance for the Rosewood Court plat, and presenting this item is Andy Chow.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I'm Andy Chow, and here today I am to present you the adoption of the Rosewood Court final plat, and to request approval from City Council to transmit it to on the consent agenda for final approval. So Rosewood Court final plat will create 51 single-family lots in the Willows and Rose Hill neighborhood, including 10 lots for sized limited dwelling unit, 1 for affordable housing, 2 for low-cost housing, 6 tracts for open space, native grow, protection, pedestrian trail, access and utilities, and also contains a dedication to the public for all common improvements. Our city staff has reviewed the final plat submittal documents and has fully examined the list of the conditions as laid out in the hearing examined November 19, 2021, findings and conclusion and decision. We have determined that the final plat of the Rosewood Court complies with all the conditions and requirements stipulating under the RCW 58-17-170 and zoning code, Redmond zoning code 21-74-030C. Additionally, the applicant has provided a financial guarantee for all the installation of all the required plat improvement, which has been accepted by the city. It is important to note that while this project is currently under construction, the final plat approval does not imply an acceptance of the improvements themselves. Approval of the final plat, however, will enable the applicant to officially record the final plat with the King County Recorder's Office, facilitating the creating of new lots and of the application for building permits. I will answer any question that you may have and ask that you will approve to transmit this to the consent agenda for final approval.
Thank you very much. And as a reminder, as it mentions in the memo, this is a quasi-judicial decision made by the council. Are there any questions? Council President Forsyth.
2 questions. Is there any requirement for the builder or seller to notify the buyer of the noise in the area from the sport club? And I didn't see anything about landslide assessment in the documentation. So if you could address those.
Yes. So for the gun club, the noise, I'm not sure. I need to go back and take a look. I need to work with the get the information from the planner for that.
Okay.
But about the second question regarding about the landslide, actually, they do have submitted a geotech report, and the report determined that they could able to get a reduction of the setback for 15 foot.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is everyone good putting this on the December 5th consent agenda? Council President Forsyth?
Yes, upon follow-up of the noise question.
Yeah, I will follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So we will put that on the December 5th consent agenda contingent upon the follow-up. Thank you very much, Mr. Chow.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of an MOU for 2023 to 2024 from the King County RePlus City Grant Funds between City of Redmond, City of Bothell, City of Bellevue, and City of Kirkland. And presenting this is our Public Works Director, Aaron Burt.
Council members, good afternoon, or excuse me, good evening. Yeah, this is a four-way memorandum of agreement with King County. It's a tune of $84,000 that the City of Bothell will be administering in the four-way partnership. The intent is to encourage and change behaviors relating to the use of disposable coffee cups in our many, many coffee shops in and around the greater Puget Sound area. The intent is to get consumers to bring their own coffee cups to help reduce the waste stream. We don't have a financial stake in this, but we are the recipient of education, outreach, and marketing components of this memorandum of understanding. And we're seeking to move this on to consent on, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, on the 21st of November. There we go.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Anderson.
Do the first 100 people in Redmond that commit to participate in this program get a City of Redmond coffee mug?
Council member, I will dig into the archives and get you one so you can participate.
I have a couple. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments on this? Well, I think this is very exciting, just personally, and looking forward to this, and definitely would encourage, once we get this continuing, moving forward, to just have report backs on the results.
Absolutely.
All right, so is the council good putting this on the November 21st consent agenda? Okay, seeing no objections, we'll put that on the agenda. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, I believe we have the same presenter here, is the approval of the 2023 to 2025 Waste Management Local Solid Waste Financial Assistance Agreement between the State of Washington Department of Ecology and the City of Redmond. And presenting this is Director Aaron Burt.
Correct. That's kind of a mouthful on the introduction there, but essentially what this does is it provides state funding for us in our education, outreach, and opportunities to seek to provide diversion of different types of waste from the waste stream. This has been a grant that the city's been receiving on a biennial basis, I believe for about the past 8 years or so. It is a local grant match of 25%, so we will be receiving $93,000 from the state, and with our match, $93,000 with our match of $31,000. The intent and focus of this next biennial outreach is working with multifamily apartments to get organic food waste diverted. It's a continual issue and problem that we've had in terms of trying to get the implementation and integration with multifamily for food waste. And then also we use part of this money to deal with waste diversion at our Derby Days every summer as well. So looking to move this to consent on the 21st as well.
Great. Questions? I see a thumbs up. This is exciting. Always great to get some more funding from the state and take advantage of those grant programs.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Anderson.
Just wanted to acknowledge Ms. Stewart is not here, but this is one of her really important issues. So thank you. I appreciate it as well.
You bet.
Thank you. It looks like everyone is good putting this on consent. So with that, we'll move on to our next item. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Development Services Process Improvement Effort Consultant Agreement, and presenting this is Deputy Director Jason Lynch.
Thank you, Council. Tonight on the request for consideration is the Process Improvement Consultant Agreement. I'm joined here tonight with our Process Improvement Manager, Todd Rawlings, and he will go through kind of the background of the consultant agreement that we're looking at. Thank you. Todd?
Thank you, and good evening. Pleased to be here now as a full-time employee. We made a decision after reviewing proposals and doing a round of interviews with all of the consultants to bring on a group called the Markham LLP. And what they will be doing is helping us gather voice of the customer from the community, from One Redmond, from the Builders Association, and so on. Also going around and helping us to map out high-level processes and handling, being an assistant in some respects to what I'm already starting. What this will let us do is identify those key areas where we can make the process improvements, shorten our permit process. That's one of the key things. To also improve the way that we are reporting out our throughput, report out for the Senate Bill 5290 requirements that are coming our way, and ultimately improve the way that we're servicing our constituents for all the different types of permits. So that's what we're asking is for this money to bring on these consultants to help us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there questions from the council? This is being proposed to put also on the 21st of November for consent. And Councilmember Fields.
A couple questions. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how complex do you think this is?
So the processes that I've worked on in the past, this is about an 8 or a 9 in complexity. It's not like building an airplane or something, but it's fairly complex in the sense that we have so many different teams working on these. I would say that the commercial, the land use, the civil permits are more complex because we have so many different groups looking at them. As I've only been here 2 months, but as I've been looking at this, I can see many areas that we'll be able to make some significant improvements. Having the consultants here, though, they have experience and they've worked with many other cities to do this sort of thing. And so that's why. They also have more experience with our EnerGov software and how to get the reports out of it that we need for the, to deal with the Senate bill. So, yeah, but from a complexity, I would say it's around an 8 or a 9 here, yes.
And I was going to gasp, but I appreciate the expert validating what I tend to think. So given that, what is the level within the city of Redmond management structure? How far up does the direct sponsorship, or is there an executive guiding board, or how are we going to make sure that we stay on track? I mean, I can't help but think we've attempted to do this over the years a number of times and maybe not had the success we'd hoped, and now is a really good time to be successful. So do we have that commitment at the highest levels that they will look for the outcomes and have measurable outcomes? Do you feel like the management at the city is directly behind this in a very big way?
Yes, sir. And I was very pleased to see Melissa involved, Melissa Files. All the directors were involved in the process of selection, and I see them providing open support for really diving in, looking at processes, how we're passing the permits across. That's going to be key, right? Because from a Lean Six Sigma and a process improvement perspective, I know anytime that there's a handoff, that those are the most complex things. But from and I'll let Jason key in here too, and Carol if she wishes. But there are I see the commitment here all the way up to the top, and that's really what we needed. That was one of the questions I asked before I came on board, because I've seen these things fail in the past if they don't have that level. But I do see the support going all the way up.
Great.
I would add to this, Councilman Fields, this is related back to your dashboard comment that you've asked us in the past about providing that active dashboard of real time. The biggest thing is time. It's a commitment to be able to go through the processes. Obviously, we have a very extensive high workload, and actually hiring a consultant to aid us and get this, there is support from the top down and from the down to the top, because staff is looking for ways to improve process improvements, and we are actively mapping out all of our processes right now as we speak. So there is a definite commitment to go through and once and for all identify all of these process improvements that we can identify, and to get to your previous request before an active dashboard.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's good to hear. I would just let you know, whether you were watching budget deliberations way back when, this was one of the more exciting moments when we were doing the budget process from a council perspective, because we all recognize the advantages and the benefits of getting there. So you certainly have, I recall anyway, you have council support, you certainly have my support. And it's good to hear that there's a very strong commitment, so thank you.
And just to add to that, Mr. Rawlings is a direct support of council approving those 6 FTEs previously, which he was one of the FTEs that we had to wait to get the right
I remember
person
that.
on. So thank you.
Thank you. And I will echo that I'm really excited to have Mr. Rawlings on staff. It's very cool to have a process improvement manager and someone who brings so much expertise. So I'm glad to have you here and to be bringing on consultants to advance this work. I know from talking with folks in the development community, they often cite delays in permitting, inspection, et cetera, on what adds to the cost of projects and ultimately adds to the cost of housing and other things that we're trying to work on making more affordable in our city. So this work is really vital towards addressing some of our housing action plan goals and other goals in the city in terms of just providing great service. So thank you.
Thank you. I think we've uncovered some really exciting things. I think you'll be pleased with the results here soon. Yeah.
That's great. Councilmember Carson.
Thank you. So I just had a quick question about the consultant themselves, and you mentioned their familiarity with Intergov that we use, but I'm curious because they are located out of Maine, which normally we don't usually have. I can't think of a consultant that's even Boston-based. I mean, normally it's at least our same time zone, but So there must be things about them that you found to be particularly compelling. And so I'm just curious if there are, could you share kind of what those things are that, because they aren't local.
Yeah, yes. There were a number of things. They have very strong Lean Six Sigma experience. They have experience working in cities nearby in Oregon. They have done these types of process improvements for other groups, so they've got this permitting background, and we liked all of that. They are clearly going to be flying here. They'll be in person, and we just felt that of all of the consultants out there, they were going to be able to represent us the best. So even though they're on the other side, and yes, they did have to deal with that unfortunate shooting nearby. So we sent them, our thoughts. They're going to be able to really, I think, do a good job for us, though. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Doesn't look like there's any other concerns. Is everyone good putting this on to the 21st of November business meeting for consent? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Thanks so much. The final item on our agenda is the Transportation Benefit District staffing authorization and budget adjustment. And presenting this is our Public Works Director, Aaron Burt.
I guess we could have done the agenda better, right? Not to play the musical chairs. Thank you, council members. This is the final phase of the implementation of the Transportation Benefit District. Previously, in front of council, you had the implementation ordinances. This is kind of the nuts and bolts component that we're looking to implement beginning in 2024. What you have in front of you is the adoption of an ordinance relating to the startup costs for the program, and then also some staffing authorizations. What we're looking for across the board right now, the outcomes of the Transportation Benefit District is an ability to gain a additional source, revenue source, to focus on basic transportation improvements in terms of safety, operations, and also a heavy paving focus. One of the factors that we heard from council in the adoption of this program was also on the ability for the city to be more reactive and engaged in micromobility and response on safety, so sidewalks, curb ramps, and support to multimodal mobility. We feel that we are meeting this intent by the creation of a staffing plan and associated operating budget to begin in 2024. So it's a balance of startup costs for new staff, and then also taking some initial dollars out of the out of this program to enhance and expand a couple of our paving projects that we have in the CIP, with the intent across the board to increase our paving condition index rates across the city. The intent here is the revenue, the anticipated revenue collection in 2024 is anticipated to be about $5.5 million, depending on sales tax activity across the board. What we do with this initial budget is propose a total funding of about $4.3 million, leaving us an opportunity to build a bit of a fund balance into this new fund that we're asking you to adopt, a special revenue fund 150 as well. And then it also gives us the opportunity to build the initial staffing, get them in place, begin to work on the micromobility safety components. So on the staffing side of the house, what we are proposing is we create what we're calling a concrete crew. This would be a supervisor, a lead, and 4 maintenance technicians. The main focus of this staff is to do that hard, dirty work of either breaking concrete or pouring new concrete, whether it's sidewalks where we have uneven sidewalks, roots, other problems along those lines, or to build sidewalks in areas that have been identified as critical walk areas, safe routes to school, for example, filling that gap and getting those sidewalk components put in there at a little bit cheaper cost than if we bring in a consultant. Additionally, to make this work, we have identified that we need some administrative support, especially in the finance side of the house. And the main component on that in both adopting a new accountant and a senior financial analyst. Finance staff did a kind of, well, in the military, we call it a troops to task matrix. I don't think that's what we call it in the civilian side of the house. How about a workforce to time availability analysis? With the reporting requirements that were adopted as part of the Transportation Benefit District initially, and these are state requirements, we have annual reporting that we have to do. We have to be prepared for audits across the board. As we create new projects and bring on new assets, there's a component within our financial system in D365 where we'll have fixed asset accounting and asset management, also dealing with basic financial components of depreciation on equipment purchased, and then cost accounting, the processing of transactions relating to this program as a whole. For the analyst position, this gets us into forecasting, planning, and management of the project, creating information sheets from the finance component, reporting to council, dealing with D365 in the budget by phase, and then also handling some support in our CIP presentation. Administrative support, the financial analyst, and the accountant positions that are identified in this. We're only proposing that 0.25 positions are funded out of the TBD. We've identified other funding sources to fund the balance of that. And then the final component of this, as I alerted council, I think back in October, within the capital division, we had a limited duration term employee. The request here is to take that limited duration and make it an FTE position. But that position is going to be revenue funded through CIP with the intent that some of these projects will require some small-scale engineering support for design, and we will use internal resources to support that endeavor. And then on the proposed operating budget, standard startup costs, we got to get some vehicles, we have to get some concrete forms, we got to buy tools, we have to outfit our new crews with uniforms and other miscellaneous costs. And then additionally, we are adding on the proposed CIP additions, so money for the concrete work unto itself, and then also small-scale paving repair. Once we get done with 2024 and we move into the 25-26 budget, I believe we'll have some metrics. It's going to take us, once, if you choose to authorize this, once we get this, especially the concrete crew stood up, it's probably going to take 3 to 4 months to get those positions hired, up and running. We're going to do some pre-planning for projects, and the anticipation is to get them out on the streets doing projects by mid-year. When we go into the budget process, we'll have a better idea moving into 25-26 as it relates to capacity and actual metrics, what this crew will be able to provide. And then also we'll have a better idea in terms of the revenue that we're collecting into this fund, 150, and we'll be able to add that into additional paving and mobility projects moving into the next biennium. So, pending your questions.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from the council? Councilmember Anderson?
I think Mr. Fields had a question, didn't you? I did. As you were first.
As you prefer.
All right. Well, it was taking me a little bit of a while to load, but I was trying to follow along with the staffing authorizations. One question I have is, at the beginning of your talk, you mentioned safety as part of the opportunities here. And will there be a dedicated position for safety, including the potentially enforcement or something like that? It's a similar question to what I had for making sure that we have some connection between police and fire for any work that we're doing within the TBD funds associated with safety-related projects.
Nothing right now, council member, in terms of support to police and fire. Our component from safety, excuse me, depending on what project we're using, there may be dollars to bring in off-duty police for traffic control or something like that, but nothing directly tied to that component.
Okay, and the same thing for like just general traffic operations, that's going to be focused on project level work in the TBD? Okay.
Correct. So most of these, in the last budget, you funded dollars for us to do a sidewalk street scan. So we've gotten that data back from our consultant finally, and we're beginning to parse through that. And the intent of that component was, what is the conditions of our sidewalks, just like we've done for the pavement condition index. What we're going to be able to do is take all that information in the aggregate and develop that action plan for these small-scale fixes that will focus the concrete crew on. We'll be looking at, as mentioned, safe routes to school. We have some very vocal and engaged citizens concerning mobility, closing the gap on even some of the trails in the downtown area. Once we get that information, we'll be able to plug that into our program and get those things taken care of. And so we'll be informed by that. In addition, it will be informed by, transportation planning was up here, right? They have components. And then also in our standard traffic operations and safety engineering, we have an ongoing list of projects that are high-profile safety needs that need to be fixed.
Fantastic. I also appreciated that the element about the finance staff. I'm looking forward to making sure that we oversee this particular fund in a new way, specifically because we don't know what we're really expecting as we go through. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Exactly. I'll use the term, this source of revenue, in my opinion, as a public works director, is a blessing. And we owe it to the citizens here in Redmond to return value based on what we're spending. So that transparency, the reporting, and the auditing component is going to be critical. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Fields?
So that answers, that exchange answers quite a bit of my question. A couple small specifics. The staff that you're adding is not in the current 2-year budget. We'll be adding those positions via council approval sometime in the first quarter.
This ordinance and the attachment adopts that staffing authorization against this revenue source, correct?
Okay, so with this ordinance, we will be adding those positions.
Correct.
Got it. Yep. No software? I didn't hear you mention any new specialized software for tracking this.
At this time, I don't need software to track this. I think we have enough inputs and information that we're using to be able to build it out. We are, though, as you're aware, in the process of adopting a new capital program software management platform. This small-scale project management and implementation will be able to feed into that system.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yep.
And then last question, one of the key variables, is that the right word? Key unknowns is the level of sales tax. Therefore, your take on what we get in sales tax. If business grows and we do find a way to get an increase in sales tax other than construction sales tax, you will be, this is sort of a rhetorical question, but you will be adjusting your schedule as that manifests. And the staff that you're hiring will keep their eye on opportunities based on more revenue than you thought you...
I get the gist of what you're saying.
Thank you.
Our maintenance needs, even just on the base allocation of pavement condition index, right? If we want to maintain a standard above 70 throughout the city. I have enough projects in the queue that any additional revenue will be able to apply to that to begin to tackle that. So that's what we'll be looking for. Yep.
Thank you. Council President Forsyth?
Thank you. So these are 7 new positions that we're going to be getting. It was my impression that the TBD money had to be used for transportation improvements. So where will this money fall in the overall budget? Will it continue to be, these positions continue to be staffed from the TBD budget or TBD monies? How's that work?
Correct. So the ordinance also creates a new fund, Fund 150.
Right.
These positions that are being added, which is allowed within the usage of transportation benefit dollar funds, will be directly tied. So if we have a situation in which we have a drop-off in revenue, these positions funded by this revenue source would be cut back appropriately.
Okay. And then, so I understand the startup costs for getting this up and running. What do you anticipate as the remaining balance that we'll be able to, to put towards new projects separate from funding those positions?
So in the ordinance, or excuse me, in the memo, we've identified 2 projects to begin with. It's the pavement management project on Northeast 24th. It's Westlake Sammamish Parkway to 172nd Avenue Northeast at $555,000. And then the pavement management on Avondale Road, Northeast 90th to Novelty Hill Road. So those 2 projects are already identified within the CIP, the 23-24 CIP. These transportation benefit dollar districts are going to go to those projects in '24 to help fund those and bring those across the line.
I'm kind of thinking further out. Do you anticipate it will only be that $1 million left over, or, yeah?
No, the intent on the out years, because right now, we're anticipating 5.5 million. Startup costs in these initial projects brings us in at about 4.3, leaving us a balance. What I anticipate going forward is we'll have anywhere from $2 to $3 million for enhanced projects, depending.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And just as a clarification, those approved funded projects were included in that 4.3 million that you mentioned?
Correct. It's just that in the budget, they had originally assumed that a transportation benefit district revenue source would help fund those projects. So what this is doing with the adoption of this ordinance, it's actually putting the money towards those projects.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Quick follow-up, Councilmember Fields.
Yeah, as I listened, and then I remember you talking about the dirty work. The percentage, so the question occurs to me is, who's doing that now? What percentage of you are you outsourcing? I know that you're going to higher levels of work. But what percentage are we outsourcing of that type of work today? And what do you think will be the percentage of outsourcing in the future?
So right now, within the CIP budget, and then also within TOSE, the Transportation Operations, there is a set dollar amount, I'm sorry, the actual amount is slipping me, that deals with sidewalk repair or ADA ramp replacement. Often what we try to do when it comes to sidewalk repair, it's usually not sidewalk development or new sidewalk unless we're specifically calling out that type of project. So on the repair component, what we try to do is if we're coming in to do a CIP project and we know kind of in the generalized area, maybe there's a repair component needed, we try to add that on to that project, right? It's kind of a bonus we get from the contractor. The capacity right now of street operations is they don't really have the capacity to identify, form, fit, and fill a new sidewalk. So I would say we can do some small-scale repair. We do some scarfing of bumps occasionally. We will work with homeowners to help identify problems and try to address some immediate safety needs. I would probably say it's about a 90% outsource right now, especially when it comes to ADA and curb ramp. In 2024, I mean, it's probably going to be still about a 70-30 until we really get up and running. Pouring concrete, creating ADA ramps, forms, it's actually somewhat of an art form. You can engineer it, but until you get out on site and you actually know the slope and see the roots and everything else like that, it takes some skill to get really good at it. And once this crew gets good at it, I really see our efficiency being able to increase and really being able to get after some of these long-term mobility issues that we had. So I'm happy to come back sometime in 2024, council member, and get you a better sense of that once we get it up and running. Yep.
Thank you. I know we went a little over time here, but glad to get everyone's questions answered on this item. It's proposed to put this on consent on November 21st. Is everyone good with that? Okay, seeing no objections, we'll move this to consent.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, that's the last item on our agenda. So this meeting is adjourned pending no objection. Adjourned.